Yes. Okay, so yeah, I will be talking about the stat kSZ signal. And yeah, of course, we all have seen this measurement. I am very excited. I think given the discussions these days, we are kind of here. Like this. Okay, sorry. So we are all very excited about these measurements. Like for now, they are tracing mainly the gas around group size halos at like 0.7 redshift or so, but it's going to be like just a matter of time, like going to lower redshifts or exploring other lower or higher halo masses. And of course, like the signal to noise will go up also once we start like stacking like more dense catalogs and move from ACT to SO. So from like the data side, all of this is very promising. So, but today what I want to focus more is what do we need, what pieces do we need in our model so that our interpretation of the results is reliable and we can trust them properly. So taking a step back, I go like, what is the kSZ? I know you all know, but this is like a CMB boost, a boost to the CMB photons that they get from the intermediate gas moving with a given velocity. So it's proportional to the line of sight momentum of the gas, of course, assuming that all gas is ionized. And then in this particular estimator, we basically stack this measure at the position of many, many galaxies weighted by some estimate of their line of sight velocity. So I think there are two things that I want to underline here. Is one, that this is not overall amplitude. It's not like just F gas. It's a profile. And this is important to notice mainly because most of the constraining power comes from the smallest scales, where we are still even within like just around the viral radius. So it's like we need the information of the entire profile, not just an overall amplitude. And two, here we are after that bit, so the gas density. But in this, so we are after that bit because we hope that it will tell us like how the gas is extended compared to dark matter. But in that equation of the estimator, there are more things, right? So for example, there is the velocity of the gas. And we never talk about the baryonic effects on the gas velocities, for example, even though we know they are large. For example, in this Flamingo paper that we published last year, we saw that the impact of baryonic effects in the gas velocities are very large and can extend up to like 5 times or 10 times the viral radius of the halos, depending on how strong feedback is. So does it depend on that, for example? Like, is the estimator affected by that and by many other things? So these are the tests that I will be trying to do in this talk. And the approach I am taking is take that estimator and write down all the contributions that mathematically are possible, and then test whether they are relevant or not in realistic selections. So starting with this, if we assume that the gas moves with the halo velocity, or the velocity of the halo that the galaxy is in, we have this first and dominant contribution, which is the one that we usually take into account, that the stack kSZ is proportional to the mean line of sight density of the gas times some RMS of halo velocities. But then, in principle, there could be some covariance between the density and the RMS velocities of the halos. And now, if on top of that, we think that the gas may decorrelate from the halo velocities, there can be an effect of that in the kSZ. So these are the possible, just by expanding the equation, the possible contributions. So what I will do is basically test whether these terms and extra terms are non-zero and whether they are relevant for several selections, and therefore what kind of challenges they pose in the modeling of the stat kSZ that we do. And we will do this by like checking Flamingo simulations that they have presented very well. Okay, so I mean, this is also work in progress, kind of, so open to suggestions. Okay, so we start with centrals. So this is a simple selection of halos, around 10 to the 13 halos, solar masses, sorry. That is the full signal. Now, if we just add the dominant factor, so tau times RMS of halo velocities, we get a pretty good description. I mean, this is also not super surprising, but, well, this is like basically 10% at 3 megaparsecs over h, the distance from the center, which for the LRGs that we were showing is like 6 arc minutes or so. But this is 10%, but not because the other terms are 0, but because they cancel each other. So they can be even 50% of the full signal. But now I think we understand they cancel each other because they are some kind of like gravitational nonlinear effects that, I mean, not in all selection necessarily cancel each other, but I think we understand now why. And I mean, if you are interested, ask me, because now I don't have time to explain, but I think it's good to keep in mind that not a priori these things are like negligible. Okay, so if we go to the baryonic effects, I check in each of these terms what is the impact of the baryonic effects and relative to the full signal. So in the first one, of course, the baryonic effects are very big. So I mean, that's why the kSZ is sensitive to the feedback, because the density field is changed. So of course, we need to model that. In the other two terms, even if they are big, they can be even up to 50%, the baryonic effects are very small. So under like few percent. Telling you that basically what I was saying before, these are really gravitational terms, like rising from the nonlinear gravity, and they don't really care so much about what baryons are doing. A thing that I think is nice from here is that we don't need to model the baryonic effects on velocities. Even though they are large, they don't show up in the stacked kSZ. So this is like nice, because we don't have to complicate our models more. Okay, but those were centrals. Now let's go to satellites that we don't talk about a lot, but I think we should be talking about. So I think the most important two things that we should have in mind when we talk about satellites in the kSZ context is two things. One is that they live in large host halos. So basically their contribution is upweighted because there is more gas in the galaxies or in the halos they live in. And two, that they are mis-centered with respect to the center of the halo. So this will lower the density and change the shape of the profile. Okay, we will play the same game as with centrals now. This is the full signal. The orange is only assuming tau times VRMS, the RMS of the halo velocities. And you see that this is like off by almost constant factor, by 40% in this case. This number can be higher or lower depending on the selection. But basically, it's telling you that this assumption that the gas around satellites moves with the halo is not true. So the gas velocities decorrelate due to nonlinear effects. So, I mean, this is basically saying that if we want to model satellites properly, we need to take into account the correlation of gas velocities, which now starts being a bit more complicated because we need like maybe nonlinear models for this, because linear theory doesn't predict this. Okay, so now we built a bit of intuition of what's going on or what are the terms that can be going in there. But we never have pure central or pure satellite samples. So let's make a step on making a bit more realistic samples. So this is 3 samples that I take just by cutting on a stellar mass with 3 different number densities. So in blue we have like 1.0001 number density, and like green is like a densest sample. And in solid is the total signal, dashed is the centrals. Okay, sorry. Yeah, dashed is the contribution of the centrals, and dotted is the contribution of satellites. So I think there are many lines here, but the important one I think is to notice that when we have dense samples, so when we have many satellites, and in particular because they live in massive halos, the satellites can be the dominant contribution even at around the virial radius. So for example, in this green case, they are the dominant even within the virial radius. So it's not something that we just can ignore. Okay, so here we go maybe a bit more directly to what are the modeling requirements that we have. So we assume that we say, okay, we just ignore the velocity, the correlation, etc., all these complicated things, and assume that the stack kSZ is just density times VRMS of velocities. What would be the error that we would get in different type of selections? So first is ignoring, putting the satellites in the right halo masses, host halo masses, so the overall amplitude is fine, but ignore the miscentering. So think that they are in the center, not distributed around the halo. This is the error that we would get. So 1 is great. If you go away from 1 is the error. So you see that in the small scales, the miscentering can be like a huge effect, like can be like up to 200% or something. So this is And this is very worrisome because, as I was saying before, like most of the constraining power is coming from those scales. So, I mean, if you don't model this properly, and here there can be many subtleties of how to model this properly, you may be saying, I have stronger or weaker feedback, and in reality you have more or less satellites, or they are closer or they are farther away. So this is like really, okay, you should really take into account that. Now if you model that, so if you put the satellites, just take into account the density, but you don't model, for example, for the decorrelation of velocities, you have a 20% effect on the large scales, which, well, I mean, it's there. Now, and this is the last plot that I will be showing. Let's make one step more in the realism. And now we stack not with the real halo velocities, but the reconstructed halo velocities, because in reality we don't have access to the real halo velocities. So this comes from the continuity equation, so it knows only about linear theory. So if we do this exact same thing, we see that in the smaller scales, I mean, no way we fix that with that. But in the large scales, we are now fine. And this is also nice to notice because it means that basically the velocity decorrelation and all this stuff are like complicated nonlinear physics that they don't necessarily correlate with the linear, for example, this Vrex. So they don't show up in the estimator in the end. So in this sense, the stacking with linearly obtained velocities makes our life simpler in some sense to nonlinearities that actually are in the real kSZ signal. So that was it. Basically, the idea of this, as I was saying, is like some kind of steps that we need to take into account when we want to create models for the kSZ. And the take-home messages are we don't need to model the baryonic effects on the velocities. Modeling the satellites properly is crucial, so the host halo mass and the miscentering in particular. Then we will have to see like what do we need to take into account in the miscentering. And then the stacking with reconstructed velocities makes our life a bit easier. Yeah, and that's it.
We have time for one or two quick questions.
Thanks. This should be good. I'd like to, yeah, nice talk. I'd like to, well, one thing I didn't get clear is that the center, the identification of the center, do you identify it as the optical center, or is it, what center you choose when you talk about center?
Yeah, for now here I am using the minimum of the potential, basically. So
Right.
I am not taking into account, for example, yesterday in the discussion, someone mentioned like the miscentering of the central galaxy from the center of the gas or something. Yeah.
Yeah, probably that's something to look into because usually what we do is optical center selection, right?
Yeah, I mean, my guess is that is more important in lower redshifts, etc. Right. But yeah, I mean, that's something that, yeah.
Many thanks, Lucas, for the really nice talk. And I mean, I know from my field that miscentering is really nasty on small scales. So it's interesting to see that it's a big problem here. Do you have any guess or any hunch on how you can empirically constrain the degree of miscentering or the satellite fraction in your sample? Is it something you can measure with ancillary data?
I mean, I think you should. I mean, one thing is really the host halo, like the mean halo mass. Then for example, you can use, I don't know, CMB lensing or something else. And then I guess another good handle is the clustering of these galaxies. So that would give you probably a good intuition on how the satellites are distributed within the halo.
Thanks.
How did satellites were selected in first instance in your simulations?
It's just like you take the stellar masses of the galaxies, you rank order them, and cut on number density. So you end up with. I mean, in that selection, you don't know anything about whether they are satellites or centrals. You do the selection, and then you say, okay, I have 80% of centrals or 20% of satellites.
Did you do any color selection there?
No. I mean, these are not the most realistic samples or anything like. Then, if you want to compare one by one to this is like the effect will be this big for the CLRGs, blah blah blah. Then you have to do a more careful selection. This is just qualitatively to say, okay, there are these effects that may be important.
Okay, thank you. And Frank, if your slides are ready, please set up.